Hi, so as a member of the big data marketing team at State Farm, we're faced with an interesting kind of, wouldn't call it a problem, but kind of a dilemma we're in to kind of decide on. The decision that's facing State Farm, according to the article, and me as a part of the firm, is whether or not to um, spend money and time in this Drive Safe and Save program. Little background on what that is. There are a lot of other insurance companies, such as Allstate and Progressive, that have that already. And what they do is basically they reward you for safe driving, and they kind of monitor you. See, big data is, there's no doubt, it's exploding, and we're able to see a lot more about our customers that before we were never able to see. Um, their driving patterns and things of that nature, which we'll get into later. But basically, how it works is um, they have the vehicle communication systems, like a little chip in it that reads, like their OnStar or whatever, that reads maybe where they're traveling or how fast they go, a couple different aspects of it. But yeah, we'll get into that later. But it comes down to, should they invest their time and their money in this? Should we, as State Farm, and what I think is a part of their marketing department, invest our money and time into this area? And if so, how? How would we do that? I'll begin by saying, first off, to kind of consider a couple things, a couple factors that at least I would say. And for one, is this industry, this big data industry that's booming. It's a $167 billion industry. So for me to sit here and just say that we need to completely ignore this one way or the other, no matter what we decide to do, completely ignore this would be ignorant. It would be irresponsible on the fact, on behalf of State Farm. State Farm has a long history of being successful. They've been the number one insurance company for years since they came in. I think a statistic is 1 in every 5 people on the road who are actually insured are insured by State Farm, which that's, they're owning a lot of the market. So basically what their goal here is to have safer drivers on the road. That's what this kind of comes down to, and whether we should market and spend our time in this is having safe drivers on the road to help save our money and to help save, because we'd be having to do less claims if there's safer drivers on the road. A couple factors that go into this. One, the privacy. There's a privacy issue with this. There's some nonprofit organizations who have trouble kind of being okay with the fact that State Farm would have access to where their customers are actually traveling to. And this device could give them, this, I guess, this investment, or this idea of tracking kind of their driving patterns, would give them access potentially to where they go, which State Farm denies ultimately. But there are privacy issues, and they don't want, if that gets into the wrong hands, where they're driving, for example, where they're going, if someone can track their patterns, and you don't want to get that into the wrong hands. Another factor is whether or not this will actually save them money. There's a lot of competition already out there, as I said before, with Allstate and with Progressive out there, and they've been in this industry for, I think Progressive was in it for 10 years already. They're already well established. They already know, and they've done well for themselves in this, in their own sect of this big data, and looking into their customers and whatnot. And another problem is, can they stand out? Can State Farm make it to where they stand out and they look, credible? Of course, they have been number one in the insurance category for a long time, but State Farm is not like Allstate and Progressive have an advantage because they're known. They've been in this industry, in the big data industry, as far as looking at their customers, for a long time. They're well established. And State Farm might have an issue with earning credibility right off the bat, because people would say, oh, well, State Farm hasn't been in this industry, but Allstate has, and Progressive has. So they're going to go with what they know works, at least. So State Farm, they need to understand what they're kind of getting into. Alternatives here. So you got the big data. You can kind of invest in this and see where it takes you as far as the customers go. But the alternatives for State Farm, to me, it's as simple as either we go down this road, we invest our money and our time in seeing these patterns of our customers, or we stick to what we've done, what we've been doing, what we've proven works, which is to base our insurance rates on things like age, on things like gender, on things like driving record in the past. Like if you have a clean record, obviously, the younger you are, clean your record, and honestly, if you're a female rather than a male, you have a lower rate, and that's just based on statistics of the fact that historically males have been more reckless than females have been. So yeah, I mean, it's really a matter of sticking to what you do and know works versus kind of expanding in this new idea of some of the other insurance companies. And it's dangerous potentially, and this goes a huge in my decision making and what I would do, because it's dangerous to stick into what you know best. I can't remember what the term is, but if your company stays into what it does and doesn't look forward and trying to adapt as its market adapts and the customers adapt and the world adapts, even as we get more access to data to all these customers, it's dangerous to just sit still and not try to participate in that and grow, because you could get left in the dust, honestly. um, from my perspective, I would recommend that State Farm, I would say, invest their money and invest their time in this concept of big data and learning about their customers. This whole idea of customer relationship management, where you learn about the customers and you see what they like and you see what interests them, so you can satisfy them. I mean, the big key for me here is the fact that this is a choice, and that debunks the whole privacy issue. The customers have a choice on whether they want to participate in this rewards program or not. They don't have to do it. We're not forcing it on them, you know. So I think it's important to realize that we're not in this to, throw this program on someone and get off in their personal space. It's a choice. It's not something you have to do, but it would help both sides, and it even might save you money. Um, Big data, honestly, it helps to identify a problem, identify new opportunities, in the same way. If we see an opportunity to save someone money, we're going to do that. If we see an opportunity to save ourselves money, save ourselves time, have less claims because they're more aware, they're driving, they know that they're being tracked and monitored, so they're going to adjust their driving. That's well worth our time in investing in. Also, this idea of like a lifetime value of customers in the CRM. If we have customers out there who are driving recklessly and just costing us more than I guess profiting us, we don't want to retain those customers. We honestly want to get rid of them. So this data would not only help them save money, it would help us realize where we can kind of make cuts and see where we can grow and where we need to cut off some customers. So how I would do this specifically is through data mining. There was certain data that I would look into having this chip read, I guess, is I would have it, for one, have nothing to do with location. We don't need to know where they're at. I don't think it's relevant. I don't think it's helpful. And I think that, again, will take away the whole privacy issue that comes up. But the two things that I would want to know are the time of day that they drive. Are they driving during busy hours when there's high traffic, higher risk of accidents happening? So obviously a higher risk of us having to pay money for it. And their speed increases. How fast, are they going 0 to 80 on a regular basis? Are they, like, their speed limit in general? Are they going 80 and 60? Their speeding patterns and that sort of thing. So ultimately, I would invest in this, and I would tell the CMO that it's worth getting into this big data industry and seeing what we can do to help State Farm continue to grow, not get left in the dust, and ultimately help our customers, satisfy our customers, and be able to remain on top in the insurance field. So, thank you.